everyone. I want to thank Victor, Stevie, and the Office of Diversity and Inclusion for inviting me today to speak with you. My name is Jose Fulgencio. I started this thing called the Oya Help Me series. Basically, the go-to resource, go-to college resource for young Latinos. Basically, giving resources as how to write a resume, scholarship, and all this, all in video format. It's open to everyone, but the message is behind for young Latinos. And one time I was meeting with Stevie, was a couple weeks ago in the winter time here in Oklahoma. You know how winter is here in Oklahoma. And we were talking about what can I talk to young Latinos about here on campus. And one thing that Victor actually came to me about was resume writing. Right? Resume writing is a very important topic. I can't stress the importance of a resume and how to write it clear. When I have some horror stories about a resume, one time I wrote a terrible resume and I went to a conference and the guy looked at the resume, not even 10 seconds, and put it down in a pile all the way at the bottom, saying this is not even good at all. Right? And that kind of, well, I was a freshman at that time, so it kind of hurt me a little bit, So, and I asked you guys, why is it important to have a resume ready to go?
It's kind of advertising what you can do, what your specialties are, what you can offer to them.
Okay. What else? Oh, thank you for Kicker wanting me to give you guys that. So.
It's also that thing that after you leave an interview, that the person that interviewed, they still have.
Okay. Well, what is the main thing when you're doing on a resume? What is the main thing you're trying to do? Was that?
You're trying to sell yourself.
There we go. Sell yourself, right? You have people, right? When you're selling yourself in a resume, that's basically what you're doing, right? It's a selling tool, right? Why is someone going to hire you and not someone else, right? Typically, a recruiter, right? If you go to a job fair or these conferences where they have either like a little like booths and stuff, right? They typically look, depending on the size of the conference, maybe 25 to 50 to 100 students, 100 people, right? And they literally skim your resume in less than 30 seconds, or 10 seconds for that matter, right? So it has to be very clear and very precise what you're doing. You're basically just selling yourself. What skills you retain? What's your education? Why should we hire you? What's your experiences? What do you bring to the table? Is basically what a resume is trying to tell to the people, right? And some of the things that you should use in a resume, right? Some of the writing is action verbs, right? You don't want to write in ing, right? So you want to say analyzing, you want to say analyzed, right? Because you're doing that, you already have done it. You never want to use I or me in a resume, right? You're not going to say, I did this, or it was me that did this, right? You never want to put that in your resume. And I'm going to show you the resume types, right? In a chronological, right, there are 3 types of resumes. First one, chronological. Basically, it's giving your work history. Now, this is more when you already had a couple of work experiences, maybe after college, maybe a year or 2, or if you already have the experience that you bring to the table. Maybe you've already worked a job, or you're currently working a job, and you come to school, so you have some type of work experience. You can use a chronological resume. Basically, you're giving your work history there, right? It really highlights the work history that you have and your education. And of course, any other type of, maybe in a profession, if you have any type of certifications, right? There are some types of certifications that you have that you can put that also in a chronological resume. Now, for most college students, you may have a functional resume. A functional resume is basically you're just highlighting some of the things that you've accomplished, right? If you've accomplished some goals of, I've learned how to properly manage Microsoft Word or Microsoft tools, right? Microsoft documents. You may have a little bit of work history, right? Maybe you worked at the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. You may work in some other type of department here on campus. So you may put that at the end, but you're really mainly highlighting some of the objectives and some of the things that you've accomplished on campus. Now, a combination is, of course, you're combining both the functional and the chronological. Now, many students, once they graduate from college, use a combination one because You do have some work experience, right? If you worked in an office for about 2 years, you probably accumulated some experience, whether it was data, whether it was presentations, assisting on projects, or whatever it is, clerical work, right? Data management, like I said, right? But you have some activities that you've accomplished, some awards that you've done, right? So you want to highlight that, and a lot of college students, once they graduate, use a combination. So you want to combine everything together into one. Now, aside from those three, I don't know if you guys ever heard of a CV, curricula vitae, right? Do you guys think you should use that? No?
Depends.
Yes, it depends on.
You want to go into the doctorate?
Okay, what else? Oh, you already have one?
Yeah, here you go.
Right? So you may want to use a CV if you're pertaining to go to graduate school, right? A CV not only highlights your work experiences, but also highlights some of the academic work, right? If you've done presentations, right, at conferences, if you work with a professor on a research, on an article, right? You want to highlight that. That's what a CV is mostly used for. Now, if you're going to go for a job, say at Dell or at Microsoft, right, and you're looking for an accounting position, do you think a CV would be relevant? Right, and it probably wouldn't, right? Because if you're applying for an accounting position, they want to look at, okay, what experiences do you bring, what skills do you have? They probably don't even really care about, your research. Now, if you're going to graduate school, would it be important to have a CV, right? Because you want to highlight, listen, I've done this research project with this professor, I assisted in writing this article, or maybe you even wrote an article yourself, right? So you want to highlight that presentations that you may have given with a professor or you did yourself, right? You want to highlight that, especially if you're going into graduate school and also later on if you're going to go into academia. You want to highlight that. A CV usually is more than a page or two, right? It's usually 2 pages. I've seen CVs literally like 30 pages. But that's usually, when you've had many, many years in higher education. So usually also a resume, you want to keep it to a page, no more than a page. That's why the font style and everything, space is always important in a resume. You never want to go more than a page, because when you're out getting in job fairs or in conferences and you're giving your resume, right, the recruiters don't have time to look at 2 or 3 pages that you have. They only have maybe 10, 30 seconds to look at your resume real quick. So always have only at 1 page. CVs, again, can be more, but usually more into going into academia. Right? A cover letter. Why would a cover letter be important, or what is a cover letter? Everybody know? Ever heard of a cover letter?
Just an outline of who you are and what you're applying for.
Yeah, so it's highlighting your key attributes. It's basically, in order for people to look at your resume, right, they sometimes look at the cover letter, right? It's like, let me see a cover letter, right? And it's really quickly highlighting, okay, did you get a teaching?
I didn't.
All right, just want to make sure. Right, it's basically highlighting your key attributes, what do you bring to the table. You may want to highlight your education, right? Because some jobs require at least a master's or a bachelor's degree. So you want to say, listen, I obtained my master's, my bachelor's at University of Central Oklahoma, May 2012, May 2013, or whatever it may be. And you're highlighting your key attributes. Listen, I've worked in higher education, in the department of whatever it may be, and you're highlighting your key attributes that you have. Usually when recruiters look at that, it's like, okay, now I'll look at the resume, right? And you want to make sure that you, on the top, right, you make sure that whoever it's addressed to, you put the right name. You don't want to misspell the person's name. That'd be really, really bad. It looks like sloppiness, and it's like you don't care. So make sure that you address the person right. If it's doctor, you put doctor, whatever it may be, or their licenses there. And of course, you want to. On the top, you may want to quote where it's going to, where it says sample cover letter. You may want to quote what office it may go to. Right? So effective resumes, they have no spelling errors, and they are consistent. If you look back at this resume, just for example, the combination, right? It's consistent, right? It looks 3 bullet points in each job, in each work experience, activities in the computer school. You don't want to have 1 bullet point here, 5 here, and 6 there, right? It doesn't show consistency. You want to make sure that you're consistent in your resume, right, or your CV, right? No spelling errors. Always triple, 4 times, or quadruple check your resume. Have someone else look at it, right? The last thing you want is not get the job that you deserve or that you would be qualified for, but the recruiter or the people who are hiring don't hire you because they found an error in your resume, right? It's really cutthroat nowadays, and anything they can find that will displace you from the pool, you know, it's like, oh, you know, misspelled word, we're not gonna hire them. I've seen that happen. I remember when I was in some job hirings, you know, took a couple typos, but just, you know, they're not gonna even look at it. So make sure that you are consistent, and make sure that you go to the career services, right? They have some great resources there to check your resume. Go to them. I went numerous amount of times when I was in graduate school. I was like, look at my resume, look at my resume. Even when I thought it might be well or perfect, I still kept going, right? Is it good? Is it good? Is it good? No, this is already, you gotta fix this, you gotta fix this, you gotta fix that. I always wanted to make sure that it was consistent and there was no spelling errors and it was really good, right? You have to keep working at it all the time. Always have resumes ready. You never know when the opportunity may come. That, let's say you're all of a sudden you're at a conference or you're at a meeting, right? And you bump into someone, you introduce yourself, you say, hey, you know, my name is Jose Fulgencio, I'm about to graduate, you know, I have this. It's like, great, send me your resume, right? And if you don't have it ready, right, you may lose that opportunity, right? And it does come along, right? People will ask you, oh, make sure you email me your resume by tonight or tomorrow, right? If you don't want to lose that opportunity, you want to make sure you have your resume ready at hand, right? And of course, have people look at it consistently, right? Career services. You're paying for that anyway, so you might have a page here that I create a little outline that can help you out with your resume if you want. If you go to the website, there's also some resources there. I'm on Facebook. Well, All You Help Me is on Facebook, Google+, on Twitter. Actually, if you like the page on Facebook, it's called the All You Help Me series. You have the opportunity to possibly win a pair of Kicker Cush headphones from Kicker. So if you like the page, you have the opportunity to possibly win a pair of headphones for free. So make sure that you like the Facebook page and you follow us to get more information. There's also more videos out there also on other topics. So thank you guys for the opportunity.
I want to thank Fulgencio for coming out again. Let's give him one more round of applause. Really good notes, and hopefully y'all can use that when y'all fix y'all's resumes. But hopefully all y'all already have a resume, so you can take these tips and just add them into yours. You have a question?
No, sure.
Okay. I have a question for Jose.
You said consistency, like, what does it have to be? Even if you have more than the skills, do you just have to put 3, not for all of them? Why is that?
In terms of the, well, consistency, what I'm talking about consistency is, say for example, you put 2 job vacancies, right? You worked at 2 different offices, right? And you're gonna, right here, you put what you did in that office. You wanna make sure if you put 3 here, you put 3 here also, right? And you're consistent on where you don't want the bullet points here and then the other bullet points over there. Right, you want to be consistent in what you're looking at, right? Because a recruiter, right, when they look at it, 10, 30 seconds, they want to make sure that it's written clearly and it's, you know, they make sure it tells, like, are you paying attention or are you clear? Like, can you write clearly? So be consistent on that. Now, and what was your other question in terms of?
What is it, like, even if you have more than what you write in, do you write everything? You should, like, limit it to?
Well, right, oh, that was a really good question. Write what pertains to the job. Right? So if you're applying for, I'm just saying, if you're applying for an accounting job, and if you have accounting experiences, just highlight that. Don't highlight, you know, your babysitting job or, you know, a job that you worked at a restaurant and had nothing to do with accounting, right? If you were like a busboy or something like, because I was a busboy for a long time in undergrad, but I never highlighted that in my resume, really, because it had nothing to do with the job I was getting. Now, if I was working in a restaurant, if I was getting into a restaurant management position, I may highlight that. But just highlight what's important for that job. Yeah.
And when you said highlight, did you still mention it at all?
What was that?
Like you said highlighted, did you still mention your other jobs, like that you've done it? Or?
Well, if you have one, well, like if it pertains to the job, right? Because there's, for me, I worked at several different jobs, but I didn't put every single one on the page. Because remember, you have one page, really, And you don't want to put every single thing down there, right? So just put the main things that, so if, you know, if you're applying, like I said, the accounting job, finance job, just highlight the jobs that pertain to that, right? Because space is very limited, so you don't want to waste space on things that are not relevant to the position.